But before we start the journey, you see, we might be sitting beside someone here this afternoon and we haven't said a word to them from we have sat beside them. And I just want you to nudge your neighbors gently, brethren. And I want you to ask your neighbor, neighbor, are you blind? Neighbor, are you blind? Let us pray. Loving Lord and Father, as we go in your word at this time, we wait to hear from you. Mighty God, may no other word but that which you have given be spoken. And Lord, may this mere lump of clay, this instrument be used only by you, and you get all the glory. Amen. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. In St. John chapter 9, verses 1 through 7, and 18 through 25, and 39 through 41, it says, and Jesus passed by. He saw a man which was blind from his birth, and his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, neither have this man sinned nor his parents, but that the work of God should be made manifest in him. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day, the night cometh, when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the man with the clay, and said unto him, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. He went his way, therefore, and washed, and came seeing. Verse 18 says, but the Jews did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind, and received his sight, until they called the parents of him that had received his sight, and they asked them, saying, is this your son, who ye say was born blind? How then doth he now see? His parents answered them and said, we know that this is our son, and that he was born blind, but by what means he now seeth we know not. Or who hath opened his eyes we know not. He is of age, ask him. He shall speak for himself. These words spake his parents because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had agreed already that if any man did confess that he was Christ, he should be put out of the synagogue. Therefore said his parents, he is of age, ask him. Then again called they the man that was blind, and said unto him, give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner. He answered and said, whether he be a sinner or no, I know not. One thing I know, that whereas I was blind, now I see. Verse 39 says, and Jesus said, for judgment I am come into this world, that they which see not might see, and that they which see might be made blind. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto him, are we blind also? Jesus said unto them, if ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now ye say, we see, therefore your sin remains. Brethren, the miracle of healing, of the healing of this man, caused a great outburst against the man and against Jesus. Now, you would have thought that the healing of this man would be some cause of great celebration. You would have thought that all his friends, his neighbors, and all the town folks would appreciate what God has done for him. But instead of celebrating with him, controversy broke out over this man's healing. This shouldn't be strange to us, because you see, I've learned firsthand that the greatest moment of your life triggers the greatest moment of envy and jealousy in someone else's life. But I have also learned that the opposite is also true. When things don't go so well with you, some people rejoice in your failures, rejoice in your disappointment, rejoice in your defeats. You see, God is growing me, and I've learned that everybody's not happy when you're blessed. Everyone's not happy when you have a little success. We often want to expect the people around us to appreciate the growth that takes place in us, the journey we have gone through to get where we are, and they should be glad for us. But more times than not, our best moments becomes the engine of someone's envy, jealousy, and frustration. Some people make a career out of hating. I say to you today, brethren, don't hate the player. Hate the game. And learn how to become a cheerleader. Because if God is blessing somebody close to you, it means that God is in your neighborhood. And it is only a matter of time before God starts blessing you. The people are mad because Jesus healed the man. Mad because the man's life has changed. Mad because the man's life is now turned around. Mad because he has given his life to Jesus. Mad because he is no longer what he used to be. Mad because he is now what he should be. Amen. Who healed you, they ask. Where is he? You must have sinned, and if you didn't sin, your parents must have sinned because you were born blind. And how can a person be able to sin before their birth in any case? So it must have been your parents who have sinned. But Jesus clears it up, brethren, that it was not sin in his or his parents' life. Nothing that the man had done had brought this upon him. Nothing the man's parents had done had brought this upon him. God was not punishing him. God was not mad with them. God was not angry with them. But just as sometimes bad things happen to good people. Yes. Sin is not the direct cause for suffering. Say that again. Sin is not the direct cause for suffering. Jesus said, neither have this man nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. In other words, what Jesus was saying is you're asking the wrong question. You're looking for somebody to blame, but quit looking at the problem and look at the solution. Jesus stoops down. He spits on the ground. He rubs the dirt. And the spit together makes mud, rubs the mud on the man's eye and tell him to go wash in the pool called Siloam. You should know by now, when Jesus gets ready to heal, church, sometimes his methods are unorthodox. Sometimes his methods are a little different from that which we are expecting and what we are used to. Jesus could have spoken the words, I command you to see, but he didn't do that. Jesus could have put his hands on the man's eyes and say, I command your eyes to open, but he didn't do that. You see, when Jesus got ready to heal the man, he spat on the ground, made mud, rubbed some mud on the man's eye, told the man to go wash in the pool Siloam. Sometimes God's ways of bringing you out maybe not be the way you wanted to come out. Sometimes when God is going to bring you out, he doesn't bring you out comfortably. He doesn't bring you out classy. He doesn't bring you out refined and polished. Somebody knows sometimes when he brings you out, there is egg on your face. Somebody knows that sometimes when God brings you out, there is mud on your face. Sometimes somebody knows that sometimes when, in order for God to bring you out, he's got to put you in a pig's pen. Somebody knows that sometimes in order for God to bring you out, he's got to knock you down first before he lifts you up. You see, sometimes you have to go bankrupt. Come on, take the shot. Sometimes you have to lose the house. Sometimes you have to lose the car. Sometimes you have to be embarrassed for God to bring you out. You see, I've learned that there are some people in life, you see, They want change, but they're not willing to do anything for change. So I want God to bless me. They say, or they may say, I want to lose 50 pounds, but instead of exercising, every night they find themselves with an ice cream to eat. God, I want a degree, but I don't want to study. I want to get out of debt, but I don't want to pay off anybody. But better yet, my dear brothers, this one is for you. I want a wife, but I don't want to work. Now, my dear sisters, this one is for you. I want a husband, but I don't want to submit. I know I wouldn't have heard any amen, but amen. I want the church to grow, we say, but we don't want to go knocking on any doors and give Bible studies. We don't want to be nice to the people we see. We don't want to be flexible. We don't want to change. You'll be surprised at the number of folks who want things but are not willing to do what it takes to get it. I ask you today, how badly do you want it? You see, because when you really want change, you have to tell somebody that what you think about my past is in my past. And past what you say about me. You don't have a heaven or a hell for me. You don't put meals in my pot. So whatever it takes, spit, mud, pig's pen, whatever it takes, Jesus, save me. You see, I've also learned that sometimes when you decide to change your life and follow the Lord, folks will talk about you. I won't let you forget where you come from. They won't let you forget what you used to be. They won't let you forget where you used to go. But let me give you some advice, church. Let me give you some advice this afternoon. When your past calls, do not answer, because it has nothing new to say to you. You cannot get past your past if you keep rereading the same old chapter. I hope you understand what I'm saying, church. You cannot get past your past if you keep reading the same old chapter. People who can't forget your past are not worth having in the future. Amen. Speaking about past, some of us are not able to get past our ex and move on to the next. So we can't move on to the next because we keep playing around with our ex. Speak the word. I say to you today, forget and do what God tells you to do. Go where God tells you to go. Don't give up. Don't give in. Hang in there, because I read somewhere that the race is not given to the swift or the strong, but to the one who endures to the end. Sometimes you have to go through something to get somewhere. You see, I wouldn't pray the way I now pray if I hadn't gone through something. I would not preach the way I preach if I hadn't gone through something. There's no testimony without a test. There is no blessing without a battle. The man is blind. Jesus heals the blind man with spit. Spit and mud, but the mud, but the Pharisees are mad. They are mad because Jesus didn't go to them for the man's healing. I hope we get into the scripture now, brethren. I want you to come on the journey with me. Don't get distracted now. You see, they're mad because Jesus didn't ask their permission. They're mad because he didn't give them the ability to take a vote to approve his method of healing. They are mad because Jesus didn't consult with them any at all. You see, people will get mad when they can't claim rights to your healing. to your blessing, when they can't claim rights to your success or accomplishment. If Jesus had sent the man to the Pharisees would have said that they did it. And it would have been all right for the man to be healed. But you see, I'm learning that sometimes God has to go outside the norm, outside the box, outside the structure. But now the Pharisees are going to fight it because they can't accept that God did it without them. Let me remind someone today that God is sovereign. That God can do what He wants, when He wants, where He wants, how He wants, and He doesn't have to ask permission to do as He wants. Amen. The Pharisees asked, "Is this your son? You said he was born blind, but how now does he see?" Verse 20. His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son." After all, they must know their children, their child. We know he was born blind. But by what means he now seeth, we know not. We don't know who opened his eyes, but you know what, he is a grown man. He's of sufficient age. It is time for him to man up. He can speak for himself. He's quite mature. The Pharisees then called the former blind man because they weren't getting anything on the parents. And they asked him, "Who healed you? You ought to be giving God the praise and not this man you're talking about healed you." Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. The question they asked first was, "Who healed you?" But they automatically jumped to the conclusion that is, God must get the praise and not this man. So if they knew who healed him, so they could differentiate between who should get the praise, why ask the man? It's the same now. There are some people, some folks, I've learned, and these are not the lessons I learned in the church. I've learned that when they want to get into your business, when God is working your life, they come and they ask your Elder Stuart some questions, like there are some psychologists or psychiatrists, and they take the back road to get on the front road, and they come to the conclusions already, you know. They come to the conclusion, but they still ask and then answer the question, just like the Pharisees did. You see, the blind man says in verse 25, "I don't know if he's a sinner or not. I don't know where he was born. I don't know where he come from. I don't know where he is right now. I don't know where he's going. I don't know his family. I don't know if he's a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or a preacher. All I know is that I was once blind, but now I see." But the story doesn't end there. In the text, there were two types of blind people. Number one, the man that was born blind that Jesus had healed and was now able to see. Number two, the Pharisees who actually thought they could see, but they were blind. It's one thing to be blind and know it, and it's another thing to be blind and not know it. You see, there are some things called blind spots, and the drivers will tell you. When you're going to switch lanes, it is not always easy to switch lanes because there are blind spots. You see, blind spots exist because we can't see behind us and in front of us at the same time. So if we change our focus from in front and look behind, we are no longer seeing in front. So that's how blind spots exist. You see, in the text, the Pharisees had blind spots. But they were not physical blind spots. They were spiritual blind spots. They can't see what God is doing. God had just performed a miracle, but they can't see it. You see, when you have a spiritual blind spot, church, God can be doing something right in front of you, but you don't see it. Instead, you see what you want to see. You see what you think you should see. You can't see what God sees. But you know, I'm glad that God says that my ways are not your ways and my thoughts not your thoughts. When you got spiritual blind spots, church, you might just miss what God is doing for you. You see, God is healing people right now, but they may not be able to see because of a spiritual blind spot. God is raising up his people now. God is restoring his people now. God is redeeming his people. He's saving his people. He's doing miraculous things in his people's life, but sometimes we can't see it because we have spiritual blind spots. Somebody has a job that they didn't even apply for. That is God who worked it out. Amen. God is doing something in someone's life. God is, like simply just be removing something from someone's life. Or he's making a way for someone even now. So I say to you, are we going to allow our spiritual blind spots to block us? Or we are going to start shouting our praises now because our God is working? Number two, not only does a blind spot keep you from seeing what God is doing, but a spiritual blind spot will also keep you from seeing what you are doing. I don't think you heard that one. A spiritual blind spot doesn't only keep you from seeing what God is doing, but it keeps you from seeing what you are doing. Let me explain. So when we're driving on the road and we want to switch lane, let's say we're on a highway, and we want to switch lanes and there is a blind spot and we didn't assess the blind spot properly, and we just made a switch. What might happen is that we would crash in the vehicle that is right next to us. And not only that we would have hurt the person, but we would have also hurt ourselves. The Pharisees were so caught up in their theological teachings, their debates about the Sabbath, their intellectual progress, that they didn't see that they were causing the newly healed man to wonder about the nature of his blessing. They were trying to make him feel that some ungodly force, some unholy entity, some diabolical deity had brought about his healing. They were discrediting his sight as though he had nothing to be grateful for. They were so hung upon doctrines that they didn't see what their doctrines were doing to people. They were blind to the guilt that they were heaping on the man that Jesus had just healed. They were hurting the man. When he was just healed physically, they were emotionally and spiritually hurting the brother. But they couldn't see it. You see, they were religious, but they didn't know about relationship. They knew the law, but they didn't know about love. Religion without relationships, church, ends up with folk worrying about what you got on, where you live, who you know, instead of knowing Jesus Christ. Religion without relationship, church, breeds self-righteousness. Religion without relationship ends up with war in the Middle East, refugees fleeing from Syria, terrorist planes are flying into World Trade Centers, and of course talks about people building walls to keep folks out. That's what religion without relationship does. Religion without relationship has killed more people in this planet than anything else in the world. The Pharisees had spent their whole life life being religious. And before we shout an amen or clap our hands, before we become too critical of the Pharisees, all of us, including Elder Tremaine Allen, are to some degree religious. There is nothing as dangerous as turning yourself over to a room full of folks, and not just any folks, church folks, especially if you had messed up. We are spiritually blind. We can't see what God is doing, and we can't see what we are doing. Sometimes, in sharing sermons, I hear people say, Preacher, Tremaine. If only you know, sometimes I'm doing my very best. But they say, tell it to them. Tell them. Have you ever thought about the fact that God is trying to tell you something? Amen. Are you blind? Can you not see? Can you not see what God is doing? Let us take a roll call. And then you can answer whether or not you are blind. So you have been going to church for many years, but there is no change. You're going to camp meeting, but there is no change. You're going to prayer meeting, but there is no change. You're singing on the choir, but there is no change. You're cleaning the temple week after week, but there is no change. You come and you stand in the pulpit and you preach, but there is no change. Are you spiritually blind? And that part is for the Christians, you might say. But I have a part for those who don't accept him yet. You see, you wake up every morning and behave like this, you wake yourself up. You expect God to do everything for you and you nothing for it. You're not spending any time with God. And you are maybe just simply ungrateful in your actions. Church, love and law, faith and works, religion and relationship. One doesn't walk without the other. You see, this is where the Pharisees had it wrong. They thought it was either or and not both. Who is seeing and who was blind in the text? I asked you. The man was physically blind, but the Pharisees were spiritually blind. Spiritual blindness is worse than physical blindness. Physical blindness can be healed, but spiritual blindness resists healing. So Jesus says in verse 39, for judgment I have come into the world so that the blind will see, and those who will see will become blind. In all their progress, the Pharisees missed the kingdom of God, and a blind man found it. You see, the blind man's eyes were open, but the Pharisees' eyes remained closed. You can enter the kingdom of God if you are physically blind, but you can't enter the kingdom of God if you are spiritually blind. Amen. When I was a child, I used to watch a cartoon, Scooby-Doo. And one of the characters in Scooby-Doo was Velma. Velma was as blind as a bat without her glasses. But what would happen is that Velma would lose her glasses at the same time the bad person would be coming. And she would often mistake the bad person for her friends. She would mistake the bad guy for the good guy. This is how it is when we are blinded by sin, church. We mistake the good guy for the bad guy, and we end up following the bad guy instead of following the good guy who created us. Yes. Church of the living God, quit following the bad guy. Open up your eyes and follow the good guy. Quit following people who mean you no good. Quit following people who are going nowhere, no time fast. You can do bad all by yourself if you decide to be bad. Quit following Satan. All he is about is to kill, steal, and destroy. Jesus said, I come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. You see, when blindness meets the light of the word, when sinners meet the Savior, when hunger meets the bread of life, when thirst meets the living water, when the lost sheep meets the good shepherd, when the dead meets the resurrection and life, this is what happens. The blind receive their sight. The sinful receive forgiveness. The hungry are filled and satisfied. The lame walk. The downtrodden, the people are made whole. Disconsolate people find hope. Prisoners are set free. And the dead are raised. And eternal life is inherited. Are you blind? Somebody in this place today is blind. And it's not physically blind, but spiritually blind. You have cried long enough. You have been talked about long enough. You are hurting long enough. You have been angry long enough. Mud and spit. Mud and spit. Whatever it takes for God to bring out children and in. Mud and spit. Pig's pen. God, bring me out. God, bring me out. God, whatever you are doing in this season, don't do it without me. Don't do it without me. Is that your request? Is that what you are saying to God? Are you saying, God, whatever it takes for me to become sighted, Lord, do it? Is that what you are saying, or are you? Because I tell you, my God doesn't force anybody to do anything that he don't want to do. Let me just tell you that. And guess what? God is not going to force anybody to get to heaven either. Because if you're miserable down here and he forces you to get up there, that means he's going to make heaven miserable. But are you saying, God,